Part 18. Reclaiming the True Equitable Estate. The fourth section of the Sesta Act of 1666 provides the methodology on how to deal with a man who had been previously lost at sea and after 7 years pronounced dead, if and when he returns and wishes to reclaim the estate for which he was previously living beneficiary, as follows. Section 4. If the supposed dead man proves to be alive, then the title is revested. Action for mean profits with interest. Provided always that if any person or persons shall be evicted out of any lands or tenements by virtue of this act, and afterwards if such person or persons upon whose life or lives such estate or estates depend shall return again from beyond the seas, or shall on proof in any action to be brought for recovery of the same to be made appear to be living, or to have been living at the time of the eviction, that then and from thenceforth the tenant or lessee who was outed of the same, his or their executors, administrators, or assignees, shall or may re-enter, repossess, have hold, and enjoy the said lands or tenements in his or their former estate, for and during the life or lives, or so long term as the said person or persons upon whose life or lives the said estate or estates depend shall be living, and also shall upon action or actions to be brought by him or them against the lessors, reversioners, or tenants in possession, or other persons respectively, which since the time of the said eviction received profits from the said lands or tenements, recover for damages the full profits of the said lands or tenements respectively, with lawful interest for and from the time that he or they were outed from the said lands or tenements, and kept or held out of the same by the said lessors, reversioners, tenants, or other persons who, after the said eviction, received profits of the said lands or tenements, or any of them respectively, as well as in the case when the said person or persons upon whose life or lives such estate or estates did depend are or shall be dead at the time of bringing of the said action or actions, as if the said person or persons were then living. Translated into modern language, the section states that if a man previously pronounced dead upon whom an estate or estates depended, then the profits and proceeds generated while he was away and presumed dead shall revert back to his estate and his benefit with lawful interest. This is a key passage and applies to every man and woman on the planet who steps forward and proves they are a living being and claims the equitable interests of the estate. As stated above, all the bonds attached to every negotiable and commercial instrument in the name of the franchise are traded on the private markets of the world, and during the course of a lifetime generate vast sums of profit and proceeds. The bonds themselves are debt ledgered against the value of the underlying estate, and upon closure of the decedent estate must be settled. What remains is a reversionary interest that must revert back to the estate and to the benefit of the living beneficiary. This is the true equitable estate of every living man, woman, and child on this planet, remaining hidden and ready to be claimed, if and only if the living being has removed the shackles of the decedent estate and bonded surety status. It is only those who have done so who have the status and standing to claim the estate. The equitable interests held in the estate far exceed the outstanding public liabilities or private bonded obligations. Many have proclaimed there is some magical account with lots of money in it that we will be able to have access to, but this is not how it works. Money as we know it is public monetized debt instruments in circulation, so the equity must stay private and is not money. The mechanism on how that value can be applied for our lives and to advance our work to heal this world is a subject too large to be addressed here at this time. To claim the estate requires that one prove they are alive and have returned from the status of being lost at sea. The true estate is one's life, law, rights, land, and equitable interests, and has nothing to do with money as most are programmed to think of it. To reclaim our true estate and retain all of our equitable interests is actually quite simple. Just like Dorothy, we have always had the way back home right at our feet if and when they are positioned firmly atop the land upon which we are standing and directed by our will, purpose, and intent. We don't need ruby slippers. Bare feet on the free, dry soil of the earth will do. The entire realm of fiction is the royal estate. The concept of royalty is a false premise that does not exist anywhere else in this universe, and is the hierarchy of false authority that almost all have been seduced into believing is real. The system operates upon the function of our abandonment of the estate and their acts of maritime salvage and claim within the scope of their law of the sea. But there is nothing in law or creation that prevents a correction of errors and mistakes done by ignorance or omission. That is our power. Therefore, we correct our mistakes, rescind the attachments, binding oaths, and restrictive vows, and terminate the adhesion contracts. Once done, we must move the estate forward in a process known as probate, to settle the claims and liabilities that have adhered us to the realm of the dead through bonded debt. Probate is derived from the Latin probare, which means to prove. This means that in a probate process, all who have a claim must prove their claims before settlement, and lacking proof, their claim will not be honored. This is easy too. Simply claim and retain the beneficial rights and equitable interests of the true estate once correction of status and proper standing is achieved. Express new trusts. Appoint public officers as trustees as they are already bound by their oaths to uphold the public trust. Perfect the equitable interests by completing the handshake of all those offers to contract we previously left on the table abandoned, and all the deeds of trust that have public debt and private equity derived from the underlying equitable estate attached to them. Place those deeds in a private and special holding account and compel the trustees to settle the waters of commerce. They are in the realm of the dead, so let the dead tend to the dead. That is their job, and they have volunteered to do it. Thank them for their service, remain at peace. Remember, there are no enemies when we have removed ourselves from the field of battle, and allow them to settle the claims, liabilities, and responsibilities of the dead. There are much more details that must be learned and understood to fully embrace and integrate this process. Paramount to it all is the understanding that this is a process of self-transformation, not a linear process for the sole intention of gaining some sort of monetary gain. This reflects on the question of what is one's starting point, what is the true purpose and intention of one's wish to gain freedom and be the directive principle of one's own life. For the Pantera de Oro Private Society, this purpose and intent is stated in our Declaration of Intention. Towards this fulfillment of intention, we have developed the status correction process developed by and built by the Pantera de Oro Private Society and accessible to members through the Gemstone University, which we consider to be the most comprehensive course available. In this context, the author wishes to take a moment and express thanks and gratitude for all of the hard work the members of our society have provided to make this document and the work we have undertaken possible. Many have contributed and worked together as a team to bring our work together thus far. Our status correction course addresses both the internal and external fields of play. It is engaged amongst fellow members who have undertaken the same task to break the shackles of the mind and the bonds of matrix programming under which we are all burdened through school indoctrination, revisionist history, mind-numbing media, social programming, and the overarching environment we live in, of delimiting frequency and mind control that permeates everything in this world. But all of that is as if nothing when met with firm will, purpose, and intent. That is why we must first set our purpose and intention on the a priori requirement of regaining our sovereign free will, and then to apply it to the work for the greater good. To do so, we must first admit to ourselves that we are in fact without a will, as observable by the very fact that we have never issued a will or testament for the private estate. And by that fact alone, the estate is left abandoned and intestate. We are only focused on the public side, on the pursuit of debt instruments and false realities, on the belief that by accruing debt instruments in a bank account, we somehow are gaining wealth and equity, when in fact, the very existence of such accounts in the franchise name attached to a living being as surety guarantor is nothing more than an a priori evidence of debt and bondage. The more you have in the public system by and through the bonded surety relationship to the franchise name, the more one is actually in debt.